Coming to you from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, this is the Quinn Spinn. Hey now, and welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of The Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, The Quinn. I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. You just heard Revel 9's All I've Become. That's been our opening theme song since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And we're officially in year 10. We're heading toward our 10-year anniversary, full speed ahead. And what a start. We have Kyshona here, who is a tremendous artist and just an overall good human with an empowering message. And I'm so excited to have you, Kyshona. Thank you so much for joining us.
Congratulations on 10 years. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it'll be next August, but we're in year 10
Still,
officially. It's
that's awesome.
We're officially going toward our 10th birthday. And yeah, it's kind of hard to believe that this thing that I started with a USB mic and a laptop in my childhood bedroom is here.
Yeah.
But we've come a long way. But anyway, I'm sure I'll talk about that plenty over the next year. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So I ask every guest of the show 3 standard questions to start us off, and you can answer these however you'd like. Those 3 questions are: who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
Who am I? I am Kyshona Armstrong, going by Kyshona. What are my passions? I think my passions are people and listening to people, capturing their stories. And why am I here? Because I was invited, and I was told when I was young, when people invite you, you come. You go. Yeah.
So glad to have you. We have so much to talk about. I mean, the music is tremendous. Also, just the work that you're doing just as a citizen of this greater creative community is incredible as well. So I'm super excited to get into all that. But before we do, we need to know a little bit about you. And so let's go as far back from the beginning, whatever you consider the beginning to be. And I want to know about the people, places, experiences, and of course the artists that have influenced you and led you on this creative path.
Yeah. Well, I'm originally from South Carolina, from H.O.M.E, which is right outside of Columbia.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So not a big music scene. I think the only thing we really have going for us is that's where Hootie and the Blowfish were from.
Right.
You know? Yeah. I was there in the Hootie and the Blowfish era. Mm-hmm. And I grew up as just a little introverted kid, you know. My mom put me in piano lessons when I was like in 3rd or 4th grade. I had an aunt that passed away. So one way I think my mom was trying to help me deal with that was to have me take lessons from my aunt's old piano teacher. And it's just that stuck. It was a way for me to express myself. But I grew up, you know, with a dad that plays guitar. He plays electric guitar. He performs in, perform is the wrong word, but he plays in his church. He's in a gospel quartet. Mm-hmm. And my grandpa, my dad's dad, also sang in gospel quartets. Mm-hmm. So on that side of the family, music has always been around. And, you know, growing up in the South, you always go to church on a Sunday. And I always saw my grandparents singing in choir or leading the choir. My mama sang in the choir. But that is, I think, where most of my influence comes from. Like, music was the thing that was my escape. So whenever life got a little heavy, I would just go to the piano, close my eyes, and just like make up my own world. And I started playing oboe in 5th grade, and that took, because that was another way for me to share, make up, I guess, to tell stories through music. I really loved when I was playing music just to close my eyes and see a whole movie in there. I would just have a whole film going, and approaching music from that standpoint of, what emotion am I trying to convey? Mm. And that, I think between piano and oboe, that got me through college. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what I majored in. Yeah. And, the rest is history. Well, it's not, but
I guess my question would be, when did you decide that you were going to pursue this professionally?
Yeah, I thought I would be a music therapist for life. Mm-hmm. So I knew that I needed to do music to get a degree in college in order to like have scholarships and whatnot. But I heard about this field called music therapy where you could use music as a form of healing.
Right.
And so I studied in Georgia at the University of Georgia. And to be honest, I really thought I would be running my own like practice somewhere.
Right.
You know, we're teaching at college level. But I practiced for about 15 years in Georgia, and then started songwriting with my patients, and then found that I needed to be songwriting too, to kind of let go of all the things that I was hearing from them, all the stories and trauma that they had experienced. And to be honest, I mean, I was just performing and writing for my own release. And about 12 years ago, I guess, I decided to let go of music therapy for a while and just be a full-time singer-songwriter.
It's amazing how that healing, you know, comes back around full circle.
Yeah.
Right? This outlet that as a child, you know, helped you cope and helped you escape, it helped heal you in a sense. You were able, you know, as a music therapist to give that healing to other people, but then it comes back around full circle here, you know, and it comes back around to where you find yourself needing that outlet again, you know, to process. Because it's interesting, because a few weeks ago I had an artist by the name of Ender Bowen on, and we were talking about this, how like life will always give you something new to heal from. It's just part of the journey.
Yes.
You know, there will always be new things to process, always new things to express. I mean, it's just part of growing. It's just part of this composite human experience. And we're fortunate in this creative industry, the music industry, to have that outlet, because a lot of people don't have that.
I'm very fortunate, and I realize that when I'm even on stages performing, many people don't know or have some way of releasing the thing that they've been holding. You know, and I think that's why I started doing therapeutic songwriting with people. Is like, all right, you might not have the tools to let go of or to speak on your traumas. But I know I do. And so I can at least be your vessel.
Right.
You know, you just tell me what it is that you're going through, and we will do it together. You know?
Right. And as listeners too, you know, your average person might hear a song and it might help them access something, right? That they can't quite get to themselves, but then they're in that moment, especially if they're enjoying a live performance, and a switch kind of flips, like, ooh, like I'm feeling something right now. You know, I mean, we've all, I think, as music fans, had that experience at a concert where it's like, you just have this emotional release that comes on, like, you know, hits you flush, like just rushes in. And then all of a sudden, like, you're able to just like make some connection in your mind, you know, that you haven't been able to get to.
And as a songwriter, it's always interesting to me how, as songwriters, we walk in, and I can speak for myself and the people that I write with, we have specific stories in mind, like specific seeds that started the song we wrote. And we see ourselves, of course, as the main character in it. But once you release it out into the world, people then put themselves in that song. And so it may have a completely different meaning to them.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to me to hear what they hear, what my audiences hear, or how it touched them. What was the message they received from it? So, I know, I think that's a part of the journey that I really enjoy, is you can write something very personal, but know that it can be something that can be global as well.
Yeah. Cryptic yet accessible, I think, is my favorite type of lyricism, where it's like, it's accessible enough, like, you know what it means to you, but at the same time, the interpretation is open enough. And that interpretation can change over time, even to the person who writes the song. And of course, to the listener, you can associate, you know, a song that's, say, about closure, right, with different events, you know, death, the loss of a job, the end of a relationship. Like, it can take on these different meanings, you know. And I think we've all had that experience where it's like, you know, something just connects with us, but then we come back to it years later, possibly, and, you know, it means something entirely different, but it's still just as powerful.
Yeah.
So speaking of powerful, I want to say Rise the Tide, you know, such a powerful message for these ever-changing times, you know. Obviously, in a number of ways, we've all, in the music industry, just as members of society in general, have experienced so much in such a short period of time, just in this 2020s decade alone. For you, why was this the time to release Rise the Tide?
You know, being in Nashville, I realize I have a very special experience with humans and creatives, with artists. And something that I've seen in the music community here is how quickly people will come to your aid. Like, I'm thinking about when the tornado hit, how quickly everybody ran out to the communities to cut down trees, to like, what can I help with, you know? And I think I've noticed in this community, even before, 2020, how easily it is for people that I come in contact with, other songwriters, to just connect. We're always like, oh, you should know such and such.
Mhm.
There's no feeling of like, this is mine.
Yeah.
It's very much, there's room at the table for all of us.
Yes.
And I've found that everyone here operates that way. Once a friend or another artist that I know gets to a certain level, they have their hand behind them,
Mhm.
pulling the other ones aside,
Yeah,
pulling
I love
up
that.
alongside them,
Yeah.
And there is strength in that. And that's something I think a lot of us recognized in the time that we were forced to sit down,
Mhm.
was that, we really can't get by out here just scrapping on our own. We have, those of us that have the stage have the power to bring others that don't get opportunities to be on that stage.
Right.
We have the power to bring them on stage and give them the microphone,
Mhm. Yeah.
to bring them into the light. And I've just found that in every way of working in this community. And I want to always honor that when I'm out on the road as well.
Mhm.
And, what's the rising tides lifts all ships,
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I think between, just my experiences in this music community, but also just seeing what happened in the midst of 2020, where we were all forced to stay indoors
Mhm.
and cancel
Right.
big tours.
Yeah.
I should not have financially survived 2020.
Right.
But even fans were just Venmoing and PayPaling, and it was overwhelming to the point where I didn't even know what to say anymore. The amount of, even amongst friend groups, there were so many text threads I was on where we were just saying, hey, here's another grant you can apply for.
Mhm.
Hey, this organization has this, you should apply for this. Fans saying, Kyshona, I'm going to buy 200 CDs. Don't send them to me. I want you to give them out to whomever,
Wow.
or just that kind of
Yeah.
support was just so human. And I really feel like this song, to me, I wrote it with my friend Shannon Labrie.
Mhm.
We got emotional one day in the midst of the pandemic. It was like when the lull was pretty low
Mhm.
in the numbers, and she came over and we were like just having conversation and saying how overwhelming it was to see how quickly our community has came to aid one another.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the Nashville code, I feel like, and that's
Yeah.
something I moved here at the end of 2018. And that's something I noticed right away, because I'm from New Jersey. I'm well familiar with New York. You don't have that sense of community so much in New York. It's too big.
Yeah.
You come here and there is, even though Nashville is growing, you still have this like small town lift each other up kind of feel. I mean, so many of the people that I met when I moved here, they're doing exactly that. Like they're starting to come up and they're like, how can we bring each other along?
Yeah.
It is that rising tide raises all ships. We say that all the time here on the show. So if you're playing the Quinn Spinn drinking game, go right ahead. Yeah. But it really is like, and it's amazing. Like when you have somebody pull you up, how that makes you want to pull other people's up. It's this pay it forward sense of goodwill.
Yeah.
That, I mean, to me, like, that sense is so much stronger in Nashville than anywhere I've ever been. And we saw that in 2020. We saw it with the tornado. We saw it during COVID when people were supporting each other, in the ways that you mentioned through, the live streams, just trying to find ways to like help people survive that time. Of course, with all of the social unrest of 2020 as well. Like we saw amazing displays of community here in Nashville, and all over. But I feel like since we were here, we got to really see that firsthand, and it's incredible to see that. And, you really like, you really start to root for the people in your circle to do well, and you want to do whatever you can to help them. And there's just this positive energy exchange that happens.
Yeah. And I think, I witnessed it through, Margot Price is really quick to pull a lot of the Black women in her world up on stage with her. Adia Victoria, before, years ago, she was always just throwing my name out in conversation, which takes nothing from her. Allison Russell, she had someone bring her into the light, and now she's like, her full band is other women that she wants to place a spotlight on. And it's one of those, like, this is why with my organization that I started in the midst of 2020, like my whole goal is, how can I bring people in the community that don't know about these performing arts spaces? How can I bring them into the room, diversify the room and the audience space, and also give them the microphone to tell their story and their truth?
Yeah.
It's just, and it takes nothing from me. If anything, it's a break. you know,
Mhm.
it takes nothing from us to shine a light on others. And I think, you know, it's so magical in the music community when we operate like that.
Yeah.
And I would love to see the rest of humanity just follow in that lead,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And you know, here in town in Nashville, the amount of musicians that have organizations,
Mhm.
that have their own nonprofits,
Mhm.
that have a heart for community is really overwhelming.
Yeah.
And all we want to do is help,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think that is definitely the root of Rise the Tide. We rise the tide. Yeah.
And I think it's inspiring to see, and it is something, you know, we have a platform to take the lead on that, you know, and it's not something that you see everywhere, you know, like, you know, I came from a small market before I moved to Nashville, and like in a lot of places there is this scarcity mindset of, you know, there are only so many opportunities, so I need to hold on to what's mine at all costs. And ultimately that doesn't help anybody grow, right? It just kind of keeps everything siloed. Where here, like, I think of an artist that I'm close friends with by the name of Lord Goldie. I don't know if you know Goldie, but she's a hip hop artist, producer, manager here in town. You know, and we're both at the independent level. You know, we're both putting in that, at that phase of really putting in that work. But like, I notice her do that with other artists. Like, hey, let me give you an opportunity. Like, we collaborate on things all the time, just trying to pull each other up. And there is that sense, I think, at every level here. You know, whether you're a nationally touring artist, you know, with a ton of name recognition, or you're independent and on your way up, it's the mindset.
Yes.
It's the mindset of we're building community, we're pulling each other up, and we're all going to win. And now, like, I see somebody like Goldie who's having a lot of success, you know, on the streaming platforms, you know, and just in the community because of that mentality, that mindset of it's not just about the individual. It's not just about me. It's about everyone around me and how we can help each other.
Yeah. Intention is what like was coming to me as you were just talking.
Yeah.
Just intention. And if we approach everything with intention and have an idea of what our intentions are, I think is nothing but growth from there, you know?
Yeah.
Anything can happen once you set an intention.
Exactly. And just keep making progress toward that. And it doesn't all have to happen all at once.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've all been on this grind for how long?
Yeah.
I mean, we're in year 10 here at the Quinn Spinn, and, you know, now we're finally on a stage with the logo behind us. Like, it took a while. It takes a lot of trial and error, a lot of iteration, a lot of finding your tribe and figuring out what you have to bring to that tribe. You know, I'm preaching to artists all the time, like, you have to build community. It's got to be about something other than, hey, I released music, go listen to it. You know, like, I think in Web 2, you know, at the advent of social media, it was all novel, you know, like to promote yourself, right? Mm-hmm. But now it's about something bigger. And I think the internet's reflecting that too now, where it's like Web 3 is all about building community, about helping your circle have ownership in one way or another. And, you know, that there's a very human element to that as well for this digital age and all that it is. Like, there's this very core human element of like, people want to feel like they're a part of something.
Exactly. And man, if there's any way I can like contribute to that, people feeling they're a part of something, if that's the music, then that is my superpower. That's what I will use to help people feel like they're a part of a tribe, you know? Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And speaking of Shannon, you mentioned Shannon, you also wrote Do What Feeds Your Soul together.
Yeah.
And again, just, you know, such a, you know, we're talking all these themes of intention and purpose and community, like that all comes together in that track as well. So take us through that process and creating that song and the message you're trying to drive home.
I mean, just like most things, it was dinner. We were hanging out in her beautiful little patio garden that she has at her house in East Nashville. And it was me, her, and our friend Ryan Medora. And we were just talking about, you know, the hardship of Ryan Medora is a bass player in town. She's a hired musician. And so she has that, the struggle of when to say yes to things and when to turn things down, or when you say yes to something and then it gets canceled, you know, or you get, you know, bumped out for someone else, and how that can, you know, wear a toll. And so we were saying, stop, you know, we all have to stop looking for the moment, like the shiny ball.
Right.
Just do the thing that feeds your soul.
Right.
And Ryan, I think, said it. We were like, why do we do this? We do it because it feeds our soul. And why is that? Because we must. Ryan said it because we must. And then Shannon, as always, was like, there's a song in that,
Absolutely.
So like it took maybe a couple months, and she came over and was like, okay, I think we need to write the song today. And she just had that, do it feed your soul, do it feed your soul. She had it in her head. And we were like, okay, our intention for this write is to play.
Mm-hmm.
What is the reason we started doing music in the first place? It was our escape. It was the thing that allowed us to express ourselves. We used to play musically all the time. Being in Nashville, you forget. You get into the routine of like, no, you have to write, this in this format. You have to have a bridge. You have to have this amount of whatever. We're like, no, we're going to clap. Just do hand claps and ooh, ooh, and like whoops and whatever.
Just have fun.
We just wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
And it was the fastest song I think we've written. And we recorded most of it at my house, like in my little apartment in a corner. We did a rough demo, me playing a little electric piano sound. And I was like, we should probably, redo that. And Shannon was like, no, I like it. Because it's very childlike.
Yeah.
And then we sent it off to our friend, Ryan Medora, who was in the conversation. So to be honest, this is a collaboration between the three of us that were in that conversation. And Ryan was like, well, what do you want me to do with it? We're like, just play. Be all over the thing,
Yeah.
Just play. Do you, don't, like, no rules. And what Ryan sent us back, she sent us back like 4 tracks of like lead bass,
Yeah.
And then we took that into our friend Aaron Schaefer Haas, who he has a studio called Vacation Land.
Yeah.
And he just put down percussion all over that thing, and he helped us like edit it. We redid our vocals and everything, but he really made some cool choices of taking some of Ryan's bass parts and tuning them so they sounded like electric guitar.
Yeah.
And it's like the only instruments on there are my rinky-dink electric piano and bass and our voices. That's it. And he did lay down a little like keyboard pad here and there, but it's really just 3 friends having fun and playing.
Yeah. And you can really hear the joy jumping off the track out of the speakers, and that's the thing. It's like I think it's so easy in the industry and the pressure of being, here in the industry hub and having to create, having it, having this idea that things have to follow a certain format, certain song structure, rules. It's easy to forget why you got into this in the first place and the passion behind it. And I've sensed that a lot of artists are getting tired of having to play by the rules, which is the most refreshing thing to me.
It is.
Because people are just starting to create, and it's like, well, what if I don't want to write a 2-minute pop song?
Exactly.
Don't bore us, get to the chorus.
Yeah.
Like, what if I want to create something entirely different? Yeah. Because the thing is, like, if it's organic and it's true to you, there's somebody out there, there's an audience for it, and it's up to you to go find that audience and connect with them as an authentic human being. But I feel like we're moving away from this. Last decade, the 2010s, I feel like, there was this really like manufactured sense of what it meant to be a musician, right? Brought on by the digital age, but also how I think the industry kind of exploited that, and now I feel like we're moving away from that into this truly, true creativity again. I feel like people are being more vulnerable, not just in their music, but on social media, just with who they are and being open. And I think it's becoming less stigmatized to be open about their entire experience and what goes into their music. And, a song like Do What Feeds Your Soul really encapsulates that movement back toward, this is just real. This is just genuine. This is us just having fun creating, and using our platform to spread that light.
These songs that I've been releasing in the past few months, we went back and forth. Do we want it to be an EP or just singles? And because they don't fit on the old record that I had, the Listen album that came out in 2020.
Right.
And what I'm writing right now, it doesn't fit into that world. But I was like, I think these are just messages I needed. These are the things that came to me in the past 2.5 years, 3 years. I don't know. And we just want to spread that. That's it. Forget the industry's idea of this needs to be an EP or you should make this an album or how to release it. I just want to put them out. Who cares, Right. And I'll get a team to help me at least do that. Like if I really lean into what my mission is as an artist, which is to be a voice and a vessel for those who feel like they're lost and lost, silenced, forgotten, then let me get the message out, even if it's one song at a time. I don't care about algorithms. I don't care about, following the plan per se. But what's lovely is to have a team that's like, okay, if you want to do it that way. And we've seen that it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. People will find the music. And I'm a big believer in that. People will find the music when they need to find it.
Yeah.
And if that's 10 years from now, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it. It's out there in the world. I'm still discovering artists from decades ago,
Mm-hmm.
And that is something beautiful about the digital era, is like we have access to so much music for so long.
Yeah.
I see you're thinking. What were you thinking?
Yeah. I mean, you could go back to that at any time. And I'm just thinking like this idea of this energy exchange, like you're putting this out into the universe and that energy is going to come back to you, and there might not be like the immediate return, but it's going to come back around. Mm-hmm. And again, that audience is out there for you.
Yeah. It'll find everyone when they need it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, we can just go back and discover or rediscover things.
Yes.
And again, assign those different meanings. It all comes full circle in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had so many incredible opportunities in your career as well. You've had the chance to work with Margo Price, with Jason Isbell. You've had the chance to be featured by NPR, PBS, like these major outlets, and remain, so genuine in the process, and surely, along that journey, along that process, there have been lessons that you've learned. What are some of the most important lessons you've learned as an artist, as a human, that you would impart to somebody, just on the beginning of their road, their journey toward creativity?
Yeah, I believe it goes right back to the song "Do It Feed Your Soul."
Mm-hmm.
That message. I had to make a promise to myself to just be authentically me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I did that, when I remained true to who I am and what message I want to take forward, what is my intention as an artist, like you said, everything has come back full circle. Everything comes back. And so just me writing a mission statement, like an artist statement for myself, a mission statement to follow. I've noticed in the years since having that mission statement, it has helped me walk through and into so many rooms, into so many spaces. It's helped me walk through some really hard decisions.
Yeah. And
it makes it easier to say no to some things, because then an opportunity will come later. I'm like, this is what actually speaks to my mission.
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate in that. I have a friend group, a tribe, where we did that practice of like, let's all write a mission statement for ourselves.
Yeah.
And like just reminding each other, what is your mission?
Yeah.
And we can just go to a friend and say, I'm struggling. I don't know whether or not I should say yes to this opportunity. What is your mission?
Right.
Will it feed the mission? And it keeps the ego out of the way. And again, I think when you are authentically you, other people will see that.
Yeah.
And they will want to bring you into the fold, because there might be something in your mission that aligns with theirs.
Yeah. I love that, and I think the sooner you identify that mission, like, not that you ever skip the trial and error, because there's still a learning curve no matter what on the journey. But like, the sooner you identify that, the sooner you're able to identify what aligns with you. Mission, vision, and values.
Yeah.
So important. What are your values? And I find, a lot of artists when they're starting out, it's just like, they're not thinking necessarily about that. They just want to create. They just want to play, like, but there's, from lack of experience, there's not this understanding of all that goes into that. And, when you identify what your values are, what you'll stand for, what is right for you, what you'll tolerate or won't tolerate, and it helps guide you. It's so important to identify that, and not just be led by whatever the trend is, whatever the sound is, whatever someone else says you should do, because it will make you successful, because there are no guarantees.
There are no guarantees.
At all.
No.
At all. So you might as well do what feeds your soul. You might as well do what's in line with your truth, because at the end of the day, that's all you've got is your truth and who you are. And again, that's what's going to connect you to your audience, and not the audience that someone else manufactures for you.
I teach songwriting classes to teenagers over the summer. And that's one of the main things I always talk to them about. First of all, what is your story? What is the story you're trying to tell?
Yes.
Right. And who are you speaking to? And in that's helping them gather what is what is your purpose when you are writing? Let's remember what made you pick up the pen or the guitar or the piano and start playing. What was that feeling like for you? And how can you always go back to that? You know, in those moments of darkness when you're like, I have a block, you know, then what's like, that's what
remember why you started.
Yeah. Remember why you started. And that honestly is what got me through 2020 when I could not go out and perform and reach the audiences and share the stories and have that connection, that emotional connection.
Yeah.
That I had to go back to, okay, why did I start writing? Why did I start even playing music? And it was because I needed an escape. I needed some way to release the emotions that I had. What can I do to help serve those in my community? I can help them write music through Zoom. I can help them write their story through Zoom. And then, you know, this whole program was born out of that. And I didn't write any songs myself, but helping others write their songs and tell their story through music saved me. And it helped feed the passion that I had for music again. Yeah. You know, and I had that emotional connection once again.
Yeah. And I think it's wonderful too, because it helps people get over their fears and their resistance. Because so many people, I think, have fears of, you know, telling their story and being open, being their true selves and revealing that to the world. Because there's always going to be criticism from the unhealed among us, you know, coming back at us, you know. And you know, I used to think, you know, because, you know, you see artist bios all the time where it just says, I'm a singer-songwriter from anywhere USA. And I used to just think that was boring. But now I identify that as you're afraid to open up. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with having fears, but it's like, what are you going to do to sit with those fears and to overcome those fears? Like, eventually, it all comes back to coming back and leaning into your truth and accepting self-acceptance. Yes. You know, accepting yourself and your story and where you've been, and using that story to help people as you have.
I'm just nodding my head furiously throughout this whole interview.
This is incredible. I'm so glad we got to sit here and do this, because there's just so much truth here. You know, this is just one of those conversations. And so what's next for you on the horizon as far as new releases, as far as upcoming shows, anything going on with the Your Song organization and the mission behind that?
As far as the artist Kyshona is concerned, like, we are on the road most of August and September. We actually have some really cool opportunities to open for Shovels and Rope this coming month, and I'm a big fan. Talk about two people living in their authentic truth. You know, I've been a fan of Carrie Ann Hurst and her husband like for years and years. So we're really looking forward to that, and it's just another opportunity to spread the message to communities I was held back from, you know, for a year and a half. And so we're releasing more music starting in September. We had a really awesome opportunity to go into the Parthenon here in Nashville and record. They're doing what they're calling the Parthenon sessions. And typically they were doing it with strings. Yeah. Because the inside the Parthenon, you know, right in front of Athena, in that room where Athena stands, the reverb is ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
It is so ridiculous. And it's so gorgeous. And so Justin Tam had the great idea of like, what if we recorded some songs in here? Because they were doing strings, string quartets in there, which is lovely. So he just had a wild idea. I think when he heard me and my vocal, you know, as a vocal trio, I have two singers that sing with me, Nikki and Maureen. He was like, what if we just did voices in there? I think that would be really awesome. So we have about 5 songs I think we recorded inside the Parthenon in front of Athena. And there will be, you know, video to go along with those. And we had a song that I wrote with Zach Smith, who is one half of Smooth Houndsmith. He has a solo project coming out. Yeah. So we have a song that we wrote together that we recorded in there. It's lush. It's just guitar and vocal harmonies. And I'm really pumped about that coming out in the fall. And then you have Your Song, my organization. Right now, we're fiscally sponsored through the Arts and Business Council.
Really?
Yeah.
So is Underground Music Collective.
Stop it.
Wow. Look at all this common ground.
Cousin. Yeah. Yeah. And so I did their Periscope program in 2021, excuse me. So that's how Your Song came to be like fully here. And we're just waiting on nonprofit status, you know, but right now we're fiscally sponsored through the Arts and Business Council of Greater Nashville. And I'm just making all the connections. It's like the past 2 years were planting the seeds, and now I'm starting to harvest.
Yeah.
We have programs coming up. We have like in the community here, with organizations that help people that are in recovery, but also helping people who are houseless, women that are in recovery with their children. I do a lot of this work with Your Song when I'm out touring as well.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing some programming in Virginia while we're out next month. And so if you visit yoursong.org, people can go there to kind of hear samples of the songs that we're writing on the way. And yeah, I mean, I think my dream, somebody asked me this question last week, which is, are you living the dream? Are you living your dream? And I had to pause because nobody's asked that.
Right.
And I had to think, I was like, no, I actually am. It just isn't easy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
The dream was, how can I do both music therapy and be an artist at the same time?
Yeah.
And being able to tour while providing therapeutic songwriting services to the communities I'm touring through. That was the ultimate goal. It's a way for me to slow down. It's a way for me to connect, to know the names of people in towns. And how can I rise the tide in this town while I'm here?
Yeah.
And y'all just keep that motion flowing. And I'm going to move on to the next place. And how can I rise the tide there and bring them on a stage? And how can I connect, you know? And I'm just looking forward to this season of doing that, of just connecting with communities, bringing other people to the light, putting them on stages and microphones. And then I think just creating and writing.
Incredible. So much incredible work. And I love what you said there about, I'm living the dream, but it's not easy.
It's not easy.
Because it's not easy. Like when you first start out, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna start creating and someone's gonna care. Like there's so much legwork, so much trial and error that needs to be done. But like eventually you get to a point where, I recently had a point last week when we were recording a couple episodes in here last week. I watched and I'm like, I really just get to wake up and create, huh?
Exactly.
And it's not that simple, but in that moment it is. It's like, when I'm setting all this up and I change the lights and put the logo back here, it's like, man, like, okay, like this is kind of it. Like this is what I was going for when I started this in my bedroom at my parents' house. Like, and you just kind of wake up to it one day and realize, well, like, wow, this has been a lot of work, but like it encourages you to keep doing that work, because if you can take it as far as you have, you could take it as far as you want.
Exactly. There's something Nikki Maureen and I do before we perform on stages. We're usually waiting. We just sound checked. We're waiting to go for them to do the introduction. We all just make sure we touch and agree. We hold hands. We place our hands on one of the shoulders, and we always say, let's remember why we're here. Let's remember why we're here. Let's remember that if there's a message that needs to be received, let us receive it. And if they need to hear it, may they hear it. But get us and our egos out of the way. How can we just allow the messages to flow to our audiences and let them just receive whatever it is they need, whatever healing they need, And it's amazing how we walk off stage crying because we let go of ego and just remember to play, to do the thing that feeds our soul, and that we are here to shine a light.
Absolutely. Kyshona, this has been a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Before I do all my sign-off stuff, I want to give you a chance to tell people where they can learn more about you and support Your Song.
Yeah.
You already gave us a website for Your Song, but once again.
So Your Song, which is therapeutic songwriting, you can go to yoursong.org. We're also on Instagram at yoursong.org. And then you can follow me at Kyshona Music on Instagram and Kyshona on Twitter. And go to Kyshona.com for any future tour dates. And just follow along, spread the message. That's all I ask. Just share the music.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
This has been the Quinn Spinn, 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, and more. Also, find us at undergroundmusiccollective.com. That's our central hub for all things music, creativity, community, and more. That's on all the socials as well. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, like I said. UMC 20 playlist is on Spotify, updated every Tuesday. We're back to Tuesdays in August. We actually have some guest curators that have been pitching in throughout the month, which is really cool, from our community. And of course, NashLive.live. We have shows coming up this fall. We've got one actually at the listening room. We're doing a takeover October 3rd. I'm so excited about that. We're having a writer's round, and we've got some in September. We've got more to come. NashLive.live and at NashLive shows has all the info. Revel 9's All I've Become is going to take us out just like it brought us in. And I'll see you next time. Hey now.